Hi, welcome to the Fireplace podcast. And today we've got Nicola Killen with us, the illustrator and author. She graduated with an MA in children's illustration from Cambridge School of Arts. She's a published author with Simon & Schuster, Bloomsbury, Egmont and Anderson Press. She has published 22 children's books and counting. So welcome, Nicola.
Thank you very much, Charlotte.
I always like to start these podcasts off of how you first got into reading, listening to books, having books told to you as a child. For me, it was very much my father telling me wonderful made-up stories, as well as lots of wonderful stories we had in our storybook shelves at home. I can remember some really, prominent authors from my childhood. Obviously, Roald Dahl being one of those, very famous. And another one was Babette Cole, who is, if people don't know, she was a bit like a Julia Donaldson of her time. And I still can remember Winnie Allfor's Off by Heart. So I thought that was a really lovely place to start. So you've got some really lovely books here that look very old.
But as old as me.
Yeah. So what were your kind of first memories of stories?
Well, it was quite a mixture. I think my dad was also a bit of a storyteller. He used to make up stories about our neighbours and people that he'd met and things like that, but obviously very elaborate fictional stories.
Sure they were out there?
But also, obviously, my parents always read to, I'm the youngest of three, so we always had stories. And I loved going to the library, I think because that was when I got to choose books that sort of hadn't been handed down from my brother and my sister. And it was like in the next village to where we lived. I remember like parquet flooring, sitting on the floor, just pulling out lots of books and having a look. And I remember especially The Very Hungry Caterpillar by Eric Carle was one of those books that I used to borrow quite a lot, and Rosie's Walk by Pat Hutchins, which are still going today. So they were obviously classics. And then I brought in some of the books that I remember from when I was very young. And my absolute favourite was one called William the Dragon by Polly Donison. And I found out years later, I'd never noticed at the time, that she was only 14 when she wrote and illustrated this book. And it's about Lady Wilhelmina of Wilmount Hall, and she finds an egg in the garden and hatches it out by the fire, and a dragon hatches. And then this dragon has quite a sort of good personality, and she takes him to Harrods and buys him a fancy coat, and he tries to slip it into the jumble sale pile and all these kind of things. So it's just like a really fun book. So I brought along this one, which is The Early Bird by Richard Scarry.
Wow, that looks an old book.
It is an old book. This was definitely one that was sort of bought for me when I was very little, because it's still got the Heifer's Children's Bookshop from Cambridge sticker in the front. And it's just, I love Richard Scarry's work. It's so fun. I had his, I think it's called, was it the Big or Best Ever Rainy Day book?
I haven't heard of that
and
one.
It had lots of different activities in it, different little stories.
Nice.
And it had a few pages where it showed you how to mix colours.
Wow.
And I think that's actually, I remember sitting with the book and like mixing up paints and sort of trying to make orange and brown, because he said, if you mix all these colours together, you'll make brown. Yeah. I didn't believe it. So,
so you thought he'd try.
Yeah. But his like illustrations are just so sort of fun.
These are so gorgeous, aren't they? I love the bird. Yeah.
And I sort of looking through all the books that I've bought, I'm obviously sort of quite attracted to illustrations where there's a lot of sort of white as well as full colour.
Yeah.
I like the sort of negative space.
Yeah.
But this bird goes out and he's trying to meet a worm to play with, but keeps like
not to eat.
Yeah. But he first of all pokes a bunny's nose, and then he pulls a mouse's tail. He's not getting it right.
No.
But then eventually he meets a worm. And of course, because it's Richard Scarry, the worm's wearing a little hat with a feather in it. So that was one that definitely sticks in my mind from when I was young. And then I brought along this one by Quentin Blake, because I know a lot of people sort of associate Quentin Blake with Roald Dahl. I didn't really read that much Roald Dahl when I was young, But I used to love, so there was a Quentin Blake series called, I think it was Lester and Friends or something.
Yeah.
And he had this really sort of weird assortment of friends
Yeah.
that they used to do activities with.
Yeah.
Like there was a girl who used to be on roller skates all the time.
Yeah.
And things like
I can't. I've got that book as well. Yeah. And she makes a weird and wonderful bike with lots of contraptions on. And
things like that. So, but this one always sticks in my memory because it's about. It's called Snuff, and there's just a scene where a bootmaker's been robbed by the sort of evil boot thieves. But Snuff, who's the sort of young child who's like working for a lord as a servant, I think. But he has this idea where he and the bootmaker and the lord and the horse all wear boots and walk past the window several times. And I just absolutely love there's a spread in here where
all the wonderful,
the different boots that are walking past the windows, which is how they scare the boot thieves away because they think there's this massive army of people wearing lots of boots. But actually, it's
it's just those three.
It's and the horse.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. So that's one that really always stuck in my mind.
Yeah.
I just love that kind of scene and the boots going past.
Yeah.
Because I also really liked, I don't know if you remember the Ladybird.
Yes.
The sort of old-fashioned ones. And there was the Elves and the Shoemaker.
Oh, yeah.
And the illustrations in that of the fancy shoes that the shoemaker used to make.
Did you have a love of shoes?
Well, I don't now, but maybe I did when I was young.
I think all girls. Love of shoes.
And then I bought this one that's by John Birmingham.
I haven't heard of him.
Oh, okay. So he's done quite a lot of well-known books. He's done one called The Runaway Baby that a lot of people know.
Okay.
But this is kind of, I think I was given this because I always felt like this was very special. So I think it must have been like a birthday or a Christmas present.
Yeah.
And I always love...
It's a proper hardback book, isn't it? Yeah.
And I always love underdog stories. I don't
like
know what it is about it.
Yeah.
But this is about a guy who sort of, goes around on his cart with his horse Humbert and is getting sort of scrap metal and things. And then one day, while Mr. Firkin is having a drink at lunchtime, his horse is put in with the brewery horses and they're all bragging because they're going to be towing the Lord Mayor in the Lord Mayor show. And obviously, poor Humbert feels very disgruntled and sad that, he just moves scrap metal around and doesn't get to do the Lord Mayor.
Yeah.
But then they're out and about on the day of the Lord Mayor's show. You can see this is, well, I think it's quite like 1970s.
Yeah. The colours definitely with the brown. Yeah.
So, but there's a mishap with the cart and the wheel comes off the Lord Mayor's coach. So, and because Mr. Firkin and Humbert are looking forward, the mayor spots them and they get to take the mayor the rest of the way through the streets. And he sits on a wood fridge and waves to the crowd. So I've always loved this book.
Yeah.
I think like the story is just lovely.
Yeah. And the illustrations are beautiful.
Yeah.
And again, it's that white with the, the colours.
Yeah. And even when there's lots of colour, there's kind of spaces.
Yeah. For the writing.
Yeah.
You obviously started off as an illustrator. Can you remember, your first time you were really drawing pictures, or it's just...
Well, I sort of can't remember ever not drawing pictures, if that makes sense. My sister was also quite arty at the time and crafty, and she was 3 years older than me. And she was very patient with me. And, I mean, it was quite difficult because, we'd do stuff together. Like, I don't know if you remember plaster cast, where you'd like make like a Paddington cast. And she'd paint it really patiently and beautifully. And because I was like 3 years younger than her, I just like slap paint. And I couldn't understand why it wasn't as good as her.
No. Yeah.
But I always used to really like Blue Peter. I always used to get a Blue Peter annual. And then like in that Tony Hart would have like little art projects and stuff in it. And I always used to like follow those.
On TV. Yeah.
So I always used to like trying stuff out. And like the school that I went to was always, you do a little bit of writing, but then you do a picture to go with it. Yeah. So I think it was always encouraged.
Yeah. And then When did you think about then obviously becoming an author or an illustrator? Because you obviously that wasn't what you were originally trained to do, I think.
No, so I did do, I sort of did science and maths at A-level, but also I did art because I couldn't really decide. Lots of people suggested doing architecture as a way of combining it, but I wasn't sure that was really for me because I was never that good at sort of geometry and technical stuff. So I did an art foundation before I went to university. I'd sort of applied to do like science at university, but did an art foundation. And then I really loved it. So then I started applying for like design degrees.
Yeah.
And I went to Middlesex, but their design degree, you could choose what avenue you took. So you could do pure graphic design, or there was animation, 3D design, or illustration. And I picked illustration. So I did do illustration at university.
Yeah.
I then had a little detour into accountancy.
Yeah.
Briefly, I'm not quite sure how that happened.
Yeah. But maybe good for keeping your own accounts now.
It has proved very useful, actually. Yeah. And knowing Excel and stuff like that is actually has proved invaluable. But and then I went on holiday to Cornwall and I started looking at all the art there. It was just like the light, going to the Tate and St Ives, and it was just beautiful. And I was like, oh, I really miss the creative side of doing this. And so I decided to start designing greetings cards. So I started off with like handmade ones, and I had like a little store on a local market. Nice. And did all that. And then I got picked up by some publishers. So my work started to be in places like Paper Chase, and then I designed some book tokens and things like that. And then I got in-house jobs after that. So I was doing design work. I'd done sort of greetings cards for about 7 years, I think.
Yeah.
And then I was looking at children's books more and more. And, we'd go out and sort of look at what everyone else was doing. It was called like comp shopping, where you'd sort of go out and buy samples and things. Yeah. And I just kept looking at children's books. And one of the books that I bought was How to Illustrate Children's Books by Martin Salisbury, who ran the MA at Cambridge. So I read the book, I was very interested, and I sort of got in touch with him. He offered to show me around the course, and I went to the degree show and then decided to apply.
That was it. You're going to be an illustrator.
Yeah.
Yeah. How long was your master's? How long did it take you?
It took 1.5 years. So I was also doing a little bit of freelance design work for the company that I had been working for. Yeah. But it was very intensive. There's modules that you worked your way through, sort of building up to telling a sort of full story, a full book.
Yeah.
But it started in the September of 2007, and it finished with the degree show in February 2009.
Wow. And your degree show, did that get picked up, your final project, from a publisher, or you just went into illustrating?
Well, actually, during the course, we had a trip to the Bologna Book Fair. Yeah. And Martin had sort of spoken to publishers. The course was actually a lot smaller than it is now. Yeah. So on the full-time course, there was only 11 of us, whereas now I think there's like 70 or something in each year, maybe more.
Yeah.
And he sort of gave us a list and said, oh, these people would be happy to meet you between these times if you queue up and go and see them.
Yeah.
And I took the project that I'd been working on, which was the diploma project. So you did a diploma project that was like a book project, and then the final thing was the master's project, but this was a diploma project. And 2 of the publishers that I queued up to see were interested in it. So I had meetings when I came back.
Amazing.
And, I got a book contract, and they were happy to like wait till I'd finished the course before I started.
That's amazing.
Kind of working on it. I was incredibly lucky.
Yeah.
And then obviously we had the show as well, and lots of people came to that.
Yeah.
And,
a lot of publishers. So a lot of publishers would come to the main show. Okay.
Yeah, because of the reputation of the college.
Yeah.
And we had a degree show in London. So at that point it was done in the illustration cupboard. Now it's done at Candid Arts, I think.
Okay.
At Angel.
Yeah.
But a lot of publishers go to see the work.
Yeah. And did you get picked up as just an illustrator from that, or was it an illustrator author?
It was
Wow.
both.
Yeah.
Because just the way it worked. So we started off on the course where you just do a lot of drawing to try and discover your
style.
personal visual language. Because obviously I'd worked in greetings cards for a long time, and it was kind of doing whatever I was told to do, really. I was fitting into a range or designing a range, but not really knowing exactly what my voice was anymore. So you start off the drawing, then you start sequential image, which is where you start to tell a story just with images, so not necessarily with words.
Yeah.
And then after that, you go on to the next project, which is where you can either take someone else's story idea or you can try and develop your own. Yeah. And that's what I did. So,
wow. Yeah. And which publisher did you get picked up by first?
That was Egmont, which they're now called Farshaw.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
At the time they were Egmont.
Wow. And did they give you did you have a story that you knew you wanted published, or did they give you, this is what we would like as a book?
They saw it was the offer that they gave me was based on the project. So it was that project. I mean, it was changed slightly, but not that much.
Yeah. That's amazing.
So I was just incredibly lucky.
Yeah.
I got a two book contract with them from that.
Yeah. And with a contract, is it so you have to publish you have to give them 2 books in a certain amount of time? Do you get money up front? What's the way that those kind of things?
What happens is you get paid an advance against royalties is usually how it works.
Okay. Yeah.
So they'll offer you an amount. You'll usually get paid part of it as when you sign.
Yeah.
Then there'll be a bit for like the delivery of the text and graphs.
Yeah.
And then delivery of the artwork, and then sometimes there's some like when it's published as well, so it's divvied up. Yeah.
And do they give you a time scale, or do you work to your time scale, or
they give you a time scale?
Do it in 3 months.
Yeah, sometimes, I mean, obviously sometimes there are circumstances where you can't get it done, or you're waiting for them to come back to you about things, so there has to be some flexibility in it, but generally they'll be they want to show it at a certain book fair, because usually most children's books are either taken to Bologna Book Fair or Frankfurt Book Fair.
Okay.
So they usually have like a timeline of like which book fair they want to show it for and when they're going to publish it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And at the book fairs, that's where most of the buyers are going to be coming. Is that why they want to show them at book fairs?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Obviously, the UK book market isn't massive.
No.
So the way that publishing kind of is, I suppose, more affordable for the British publishers is to sell co-editions. So that's where buyers from other countries can sign up to the book.
Yeah.
They can either make their own edition of it, or they can say, we'll take your edition, obviously, with the language changed.
Yeah.
So you'll notice in most children's books that the text will be in black or grey.
Okay.
And that's so that it can the pictures will be printed, and then the different languages will be printed over it.
I never knew that.
Yeah. So when there is darkness and then there's writing on top, it will actually be, you see here, because that might be
Yeah.
So here where the text is, if the name of the teacher is different in a different language, the actual blackboard colour is the printed bit and the white is the paper, so that it can be printed in different languages.
Wow. Yeah.
So also, say for instance on Lost Kitten, where there's bits where there's a lot of darkness here, this texture is sort of printed as the text, and the text is actually the paper colour coming through, so that you can have white, but have it in different languages.
Yeah. And how many of your books are published in different languages then?
So I mean, the Ollie books, some of them are in Japanese. I think just this one is in Korean.
Wow.
They're all published in America under a slightly different title.
Okay.
I think they're all in Italy, France, and then they do a French edition for Canada as well as.
Oh yeah.
So and some of them are in Spanish as well, and then I've had the Christmas one in Welsh, which was really exciting.
Wow.
That was my first Welsh book. So it really varies.
Yeah.
But I think they're the ones that have like done the most co-editions for me.
That's amazing.
It's really exciting to receive them
yeah.
in the post, and it does make them look quite different sometimes, because the text can be very, very different.
Very different.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't speak French, but I sort of can read a bit of it, and they do change it as well, so you can tell that they've sort of tweaked the story a bit
to see the grammar and the language, and and Korean as well. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, there is a really big sort of picture book culture in Korea.
Yeah.
In South Korea.
Wow.
So, for instance, this one was published in Korean, and they even made like a little jigsaw to like promote it when it came out, and they sent me some like mini jigsaws with them on. So, it's
and that's really good to know, actually.
Those.
So, if you're being a children's author, then actually, doing something that can be easily translated across many languages, is that's what publishers are.
I mean, some publishers do say about rhyming text. That, I mean, obviously, someone like Julia Donaldson.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
But it's harder to sell to different countries because they'd have to translate it and try and make it rhyme and scan.
Really?
So it's quite a hard job. So some publishers will ask you to have a non-rhyming text to go with it, so that it's easier to sell it in translation as well.
Yeah. God, that's really different, because generally, like the children's books that you see are quite successful, maybe in the UK, or are easy to read as a parent, are those rhyming books.
Yeah.
But actually, if you are wanting to be an author that's then put across many different languages, then actually creating a book that is not a rhyming book is a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, my first book, Not Me, was rhyming. And they managed to get it to work in Dutch. I think it was where they did it in a different language. Yeah. But I mean, the publishers did say it is harder to sort of sell
books across
across many countries. Okay. Yeah.
So if you were a kind of wanting to be an illustrator or an author now, obviously listening to your story, a big part of your story is making sure you pick the right maybe university or degree to then give you that kind of stepping stone off to kind of either publishers or the right places to go. Would that be the recommended route, or is there?
I think, well, I've met people who've done lots of different routes, so I don't think it's like a one route fits all. I've met a lot of children's book illustrators and authors who also started in animation. That seems to be, I think, because they're used to like showing action, drawing storyboards, kind of pacing things. So that seems to be a skill that kind of comes from that. And also, like some people have just done a BA in illustration. Some people haven't done any qualifications in illustration, but it's just something they've managed to do. So, I mean, the thing about the Cambridge course is that it's obviously got a very good reputation. So lots of people do pay attention when you graduate.
And good connections. Which is really hard.
But you can still get an agent without having done something like that. So some people I know have approached agents and got an agent, and then they will show your work to publishers. So
so do you think if you are maybe a self-published author that wants to become a published author, would the kind of best thing to do first is get an agent?
If you can, I think, because some publishers won't take submissions or have a very limited sort of window of submissions that are just completely speculative, where they would look at things if they an agent that they trust is saying, oh, look at this is good. Okay.
So thinking about all these lovely stories, you've obviously written a really lovely series of books with Ollie, the main character. How do you come up with these stories? Do you do the illustrations first? Do you think about the character? What's your kind of process?
That really varies as well.
No, that's it.
So, I mean, for instance, Fluff and Billy, I sort of had the story idea. I did, while I was doing the MA, I asked if I could go into the nursery that they had on site. So I used to go in sort of 2 mornings a week and just sort of sit in the corner. I mean, obviously you can't be unnoticed because kids just come up and...
Who are you? You're new.
start talking to you, start leaning on you, know what you're doing, sticking things into your sketchbook, and things like that. But obviously observing children who after a while just treated me as part of the furniture was really helpful. And that came from 2 girls who just one of them just followed the other one around and literally repeated what she said all day.
Love that.
So, and then I kind of thought, oh, what characters could they be? And then it's the thing of like, how is it going to sort of change in terms of like when they have a bit of a falling out, and then resolving it.
Yeah.
But I'd been going to the zoo quite a lot to draw as well, so I was very fond of penguins at the time. They have nice little characters.
Yeah. I love penguins.
Yeah.
And children love penguins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was more story than characters.
Yeah.
With Ollie, so it started with the Christmas book, Ollie's Christmas Reindeer. And that was, I was at my friend's house, and she's got two girls who, I was going to say two little girls, but they're, one of them's about to turn 18 and the other one's about to turn 16. So they're not that little anymore.
Late teenager, early adults.
Yeah. And so they ordered some like reindeer onesies for them when they were young, and they put them on and they looked so cute, and they were like running around the house, and it was before Christmas. Yeah. And I went home and I just did like a little rough sketch in my sketchbook just to kind of,
remember it.
Yeah, just to remember it. And then I made them a Christmas card with a picture of them on, because they just look so cute.
Yeah.
And then when I was in my studio, I was just trying some like black and white work out.
Yeah.
And I had the sort of Christmas card on my wall, and I thought, that'd be quite a nice thing to paint in black and white. And I just did like a sort of head and shoulders, which is just like the cover of Christmas Reindeer. And like everybody really, really liked it, and we're just like, we love this reindeer girl. Do something with the reindeer girl.
Yeah.
So then it started off as a board book idea with cut-throughs.
Yeah.
And then Simon & Schuster said, would you sort of make it into a picture book?
Yeah.
And then we started working on developing it into a picture book. And that's how the Ollie book started.
Yeah. Lovely.
Yeah.
So then obviously the first Ollie book was the reindeer. Then did Simon & Schuster come back to you and say, we would like 3 more and we want them based around these kind of stories? Or they said, obviously go off, free reign, do whatever you like?
They sort of had seasons in mind.
Yeah.
So to start with, there was a bit of discussion about what would be the second one. But then they said, could it be an Easter book? And then I went away, I did some drawing. So I thought, could she be, there was a rabbit, or there was a very cute kind of Macintosh that was made her look like a little chick.
Yeah, I've read this book. This is on our channel.
But so I did like little samples, and then that was the Magic Bunny one in the end. So, and they sort of had an idea about the colours as well, because I wasn't sure whether I wanted to put green in as well as yellow, but they were very like, we want green as well.
Right.
So, but and also because the books do well in America, they have a bit of input as well.
Yeah.
So, and then after that came the kitten. So it was like, we'll do a Halloween book.
This one.
Yeah.
And we've got this on our channel.
Yeah.
Yes. It's lovely.
I like your outfit.
Yes. Yeah. And the decoration. But
so this one, I mean, I think I did 2 story ideas, and they were just like, yes, this.
Really? Yeah.
So it was much more. And it just seemed natural to have her as a cat straight away for Halloween. I think it really worked. And also because obviously the Christmas one has a lot of nighttime skies.
Yeah,
this really worked, and the orange and the sort of copper foil really works on the dark background. So
which was your other idea?
it was something to do with stealing pumpkins. I think there was, when I think back now, it's yes, it was this one.
Yeah, this one was the right one.
Choice.
Yeah, kitten.
I think it was about animals actually carving.
Oh, okay, pumpkins.
Sort of pumpkins.
Yeah.
Very far-fetched.
Yes.
But I really loved doing the artwork for this one. I think it's just sort of, I don't know, it sort of felt like it had a bit of a dreamy quality.
I love that. Yeah.
Like where
the twinkling lights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and that's really nice as well. And that's another thing, because putting foil on books is quite expensive. The fact that it's like other countries buy in as well makes it possible, really, I think.
Yeah.
And then they said birthday. So, and that's this one.
This is lovely. This is hardback, isn't it?
Yeah. So, most other countries, they have hardback. So here, I think is the only country where
we don't.
They come out in paperback.
Really?
It's mainly paperback. Yeah,
Wow.
I think they just make a few hardbacks. And then, So, and this is Ollie's birthday.
This is lovely. We read this to the children today, didn't we? You did, yeah.
Yeah. So, but this was another one that was really fun to illustrate. So I love doing all the different animals.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, and then the colour palette, because obviously try and use a different coloured foil every time.
Yeah.
So try and make the colour palette fit in
Yeah.
with the foil, and then I can give you a sneak preview.
Ooh.
The next one, if I just go over here.
Sneak preview.
Sneak preview.
Ah.
So this is the
Valentine's.
this is the next one.
Oh.
So this is
All Mother's
all
Day.
these puppy love.
Is it really around Valentine's Day?
There's a lot of hearts in it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mention Valentine's specifically.
It's love.
Yeah.
Mother's Day, Father's Day. Yeah. It's gorgeous.
So thank you.
Yeah. Oh, so we'll have to wait. When's this coming out?
So it comes out in America at the beginning of December, and it comes out in the UK, I think, at the beginning of January.
Okay. So America ready for the Christmas?
They just have to go a bit earlier because it's such a big country. Everything sort of takes a bit longer.
Yeah.
So it will be for Valentine's, but it will just come out at the beginning of December.
Yeah. Be ready for it. That's gorgeous. Oh, we can't wait for that.
Thanks.
Your illustrations really stand out. And I can, when I see one of these books, I'm like, oh, that's a Nicola Killen book, which is really lovely. Yeah, kind of. So thinking about published and self-published, what are the kind of pros for being a published kind of illustrator author?
Well, I mean, I guess the main one is probably that you're working with professionals. So professional editors, designers, production people within the publishers, and they really know what they're doing. Yeah. So they're all working towards making your book as be as good as it can be and be successful. And they will then, promote it at the fairs or promote it sort of locally as well in this country in bookshops. Yeah. So you don't have to do
any kind of marketing.
Well, I think you're expected to, do your bit.
Yeah.
But, you're working with professionals and they'll help you and guide you as well.
Yeah. And I suppose you also then don't have to deal with the printing, the distribution, the country. Which obviously as a self-published author, you then have to do.
Yeah. And also, I mean, I don't know if people, when they self-publish, whether they actually get physical copies printed or it's more print on demand these days, but some people have to store lots
they do. So it's really interesting. Some self-published authors we've worked with, they actually do a batch print because they wanted a good quality, high quality book.
Okay. Yeah.
Where most now actually use Amazon and they print on demand. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think, The hardest thing about, I'm guessing, self-published is being a jack of all trades, as in you have to be the marketer, you have to, work out how much it's going to cost to obviously print a book. Then you've got to get the printer, then you've got to get a distributor, then you've got to work with bookstores. It's,
Yeah, it's a big undertaking.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think as well, because if you are self-publishing, it's probably a good idea to, get people to edit your work and check that it's okay. And then if you want to get it something illustrated, you might have to pay the illustrator to do it as well.
And finding an illustrator actually. The cons for being published?
I mean, I suppose there is the element of, obviously, well, I mean, it's good because they're weeding out which stories that you write that
are good.
Not good. Don't cut it. Yeah. Good or not good. So I suppose it can be disappointing when you think you've written something that you're like, yes, this is it.
And they're like, no.
And then they're like, no, it's not it. But it's better to have it done at that stage.
Than spending all that money.
Yeah.
And then having it published or, getting it printed and then no one actually buying your book because it's not, what the market needed.
But I mean, I think that is one of the important things to say to people if they're aspiring writers and illustrators is that a lot of stuff never makes it.
Yeah.
For everyone.
Yeah.
It's not that everything that you do after you get one book published is going to get published because, you might write 5 and one is okay or it really varies. And it's sometimes, you have an idea and you think, this is great.
Really good. Yeah.
But it doesn't quite work. And actually then you'll come back to it a year later and think, oh yeah, what was I thinking? But yeah, don't lose heart, because it's a lot of, trial and error.
Yeah.
I mean, I do think some people think it's easy because they're short, but it's every word counts.
Yeah.
And you have to keep reading it over and over again out loud to yourself.
Yeah.
To make sure that when someone else reads it, it doesn't sound terrible. And that way you really notice if something's just jarring slightly, or if you've been quite repetitive in an area. If you're just reading it in your head, you just don't really notice that. But reading it out loud to yourself, you notice all the mistakes.
Do you read your storybooks out loud to a few people that are confidants, or you?
Well, I show people like storyboards, for instance. So I'll let them read them themselves at that stage. But I do hone it. I mean, I will, like, each story will be rewritten like many times.
Yeah.
Because you are just kind of just chopping little bits here and there, or just tweaking it very slightly, or, if something just doesn't quite sound, or you trip over it when you're saying it out loud.
Yeah.
And then also when you sort of finalise what the pictures look like, it might be that you're repeating in the words something that the picture obviously displays. Yeah. And then you can just cut it from the words.
Yeah.
So constantly
editing and changing.
Yeah.
I guess one thing that lots of self-published say is that the con of being a published author is it takes such a long time for a book to come to market, from, maybe you agreeing with your publisher, yes, go ahead, and then it going to market. Is that true, or how long does it normally take?
Again, it does vary. I mean, it is quite true. Obviously, there's quite a long lead time because, they'll want to present it at a book fair, but before that, they'll need to have either sort of something printed like a proof, or they sometimes use this thing called blads, which is where they've mocked up a book to take. So they might do it in-house to take it to a book fair. But yeah, everything does take time. Obviously, lots of the books are printed abroad, so then they have to be shipped to wherever they're going. Yeah. And depending on which country, I mean, in the US, because of it being such a big country, they need promotional material very early so they can show it to bookshops, booksellers, and then it takes longer to distribute and that kind of thing.
Country. Yeah. So the book fairs you've been mentioning, which are the two you've obviously mentioned two major book fairs that are worth probably going along to for any inspiring kind of author illustrator to kind of get a look at the idea of the market, or?
I mean, I've only been to Bologna once, which was when I was on the MA. Lots of people go every year, and it's like a big meetup of illustrators and writers, and lots of the publishers are there. It's huge, the Bologna. I mean, it is just children's books. There's an exhibition of they have a sort of competition where they display the winners. And we went for a day while we were on the MA. So we stayed in Florence and did like drawing around Florence, and then went to Bologna Book Fair. And like, it's huge, great halls of books. And there's different zones for different countries. I mean, it's really interesting to see what books are published in different countries.
The inspiration.
So, and just see, because obviously like some countries, it's very much like we don't want sad stories, or we don't want stories that are dark, whereas other countries don't worry about it so much. And just things like that, so you notice the cultural differences. But that one, and Frankfurt is the other one where children's book, it's not just children's book Frankfurt, but that's the other big book fair where children's publishers present children's books.
And any book fairs worth going to in the UK, or?
Well, the London Book Fair, I have been there like a couple of times. Obviously, it's nearer, so it's easy to go to. But it's not so focused on children's books. So I think there's less of that.
So actually, if you want to be an aspiring children's illustrator author, it's worth actually concentrating on those fairs that are.
I mean, Bologna is the
one to go to. Right, so the one to go to. Book your ticket now.
But I mean, you don't have to. I mean, the thing is, you could go to a library here and just like read everything. And get an idea of what works for the age group. If you can, try things out with children. If you've got, your own children or friends' children, try things out and see how it goes down with them. That's a good way to start. And there's also like courses you can do like online, and even just like little short ones that aren't too expensive, just to kind of dip your toe in and see
if it's something for you.
Yeah.
So do you have a studio at home? What kind of workspace do you have? Do you like doing it at home? Do you have a studio? Do you go away? What's your kind of working?
Well, I do actually work at home. I do have a little studio space that I've rented for quite a long time. But obviously when COVID hit, I had to just like put everything in the car and take it home, and I've never moved it back again. So my studio has got lots of books in it at the moment, and it still has a desk. And, I am sort of planning that I would like to do more like printmaking and more messy stuff there. But I bought a desk to work at home, and I've got my computer there, and that's where I do most of the work. But sometimes I do find it quite hard to write at home sometimes. So I'll just go to the library is the main place that I still go to. So
like at university, like
or
anything kind of,
I used to do my homework in the same library when I was doing my A levels. So still go back there to do my writing. So if other people there are working and there's not the distractions, you can't put the washing on and things like that. You need to stay focused.
I know a lot of authors we have interviewed say, they need to go away from the home or go away somewhere where they're not going to just get distracted. So every hour putting on another washing load or being, the dog's here, the cat's there. It
can be difficult. I think the thing is, if I have very specific tasks and I know exactly what I'm doing, then I can like work really effectively at home. Otherwise, not so much.
So last question, do you have a favourite book that you have illustrated or written and illustrated as well?
Oh, that's like having a favourite child.
I know, Or maybe one that's memorable then, one that maybe took you longer than you thought, or that was a success, you never thought it was going to be a success.
Well, I suppose, this has a little claim to fame because Fluff and Billy, I don't think it's in print any longer, but when it came out, Julia Donaldson picked it as one of her books of the year in The Guardian.
Wow.
So at the time, it was only my second book.
Oh my God, you must have thought you were like,
That was very exciting. Like one of my tutors from the course like texted me and said, have you seen The Guardian? And I was like, oh, what? And
Wow.
So that was nice. But I've also had like lovely messages from people, some people in America who have adopted children who love it. This is their like favourite book. And then someone who worked in a refugee camp who they read this to the kids every night and stuff like that. So that's kind of makes it special.
Makes it really special. That's a brilliant claim to fame, and that was good. And kept you going past number book 2.
It was very nice.
Did it help with the sales? Or
it did have a little
peak
spike. So I think so. Thank you, Julia.
Yes, thank you, Julia. Nicola, it has been lovely having you.
Thank you. It's been very nice to talk to you. Thank you for having me.
No, it's been lovely talking to you, lovely getting to know you more. We love your books on our channel.
Thank you.
We will definitely be reading this one soon because I have to get this because we are doing a back to school theme. All of Nicola's books that we've read, we're going to put a link in the description below, as well as we will put a link to her website. So if you want to buy any of her books, which I fully recommend, that you can go there. And hopefully until next time, maybe we'll come and get you back on the podcast once Puppy Love is out.
That would be great. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much. Until next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.